I would like to explore in this lecture some of the ideas that we can learn for modern management from the Shastras. Management, as you know, is a vast subject by itself. It deals with several different functions of management, such as marketing, manufacturing, finance, personnel. There is also the issue of management in different kinds of sectors: public sector, private sector, manufacturing, service sector. Similarly, the Shastras are perhaps even vaster. They have a very wide range of components which together we deal with under the umbrella of the term Shastras. There are the Vedas, Upanishads, Itihasas, Puranas, various kinds of contributions which have come over the years. What we will try and do in this session is to highlight some of the A category and more popularly intelligible aspects of the Shastras as they can be applied to management. Management, as we know it, is a relatively recent discipline. Many of the ideas have emanated from those countries where modern science and technology and industrial revolution came first. So some of the initial ideas in management were from England and France, later from the United States, and more recently from Japan. While learning from these various streams, there is also a gradual evolution of an Indian idiom of management. Just as we can pick up the physical sciences, which are universally valid, there are some quantitative concepts in management which are relevant universally, but when it comes to human, behavioral, organizational aspects, there is a need to look at one's own heritage and adapt ideas from that context. First of all, let us take the basic question of the purpose of human society, human existence, the role of organizations and individuals. What is the underlying rationale for the existence of an individual, a family, or an organization in civilized society? Our Shastras give a very thorough, comprehensive, and convincing answer to this question. They look at all the various needs of human beings, their possible aspirations, and accept the legitimacy of these different aspirations. You would have heard, perhaps somewhere in your family or among your elder acquaintances, people in the village, or in other situations, about the concept of Purusharthas, the objectives of human existence. There are basically four, and they are stated in an order which is relevant to all of us. First and foremost, as you know, is the objective of dharma, righteousness. Today, the word dharma is used sometimes in the sense of religion. When we talk about secularism, we talk about dharma nirapekshata. Actually, when we understand the true meaning of the term dharma, which is right conduct in life, perhaps when we want to refer to secularism, we should talk about pantha nirapekshata, that is equanimity and lack of bias between different routes towards God, whereas in the dealings between human beings within the organization, as well as between the organization and its external stakeholders, such as customers, dealers, suppliers, lenders, investors, the dealings must be primarily governed by dharma. Our Shastras also accept that people have a need for material well-being, income, acquisition of wealth. Therefore, they sanction Arth as another important human objective which the individual can pursue, the divisions can pursue within a company, companies inside a business group can pursue, and a business group like one of our large family business houses can pursue this objective quite legitimately. However, the pursuit of Artha must be governed by the rules of dharma or righteousness. Therefore, it would not be appropriate for a function like sales or marketing to misreport its turnover and its billing to customers or collections with the idea of showing a higher profit than what they have actually made. It would also not be appropriate for a particular division to pursue its profit objectives at the cost of other sister divisions or functions of the organization. And likewise, it would be desirable that the top management of every company in a business group first wears the hat of the business group, looks at what is in the overall dharma of the business group, and then pursues its objective of artha. Similarly, at the holding company level, whether it is a multinational or a public enterprise or a family business house, it would be appropriate for the holding company top management to think in terms of the national interest first, and thereafter, within that overall dharma of what is in the interest of the Indian economy, pursue their own respective dharma. In a sense, one can say the fact that all countries in the world have signed the GATT agreement, the General Agreement on Trade and Tariff, ending up with the Uruguay round of negotiations, indicates that they have all recognized that their own pursuit of national GNP growth, exports, has to be governed by some kind of an international trade dharma within which these national pursuits have to be disciplined. Our Shastras also recognize that the human being is to begin with a physiological being with various drives and needs, desires, sense objects for fulfillment of these tendencies. Therefore, they acknowledge the legitimacy of kama, desire for various kinds of gratification: food, shelter, sex, procreation, consumption, viewing good things through the eyes, hearing good music. Various needs of the body are sanctioned, and that's perfectly legitimate. Again, however, the pursuit of kama or the desire objects has to be governed by the creation of wealth and sustenance of wealth of the organization, the family and society, not their destruction, as well as the dharma or the righteousness through which it is to be pursued. Today, when there was this international Rio conference, which looked at only the issue of ecology and environment, in a way, the whole world is recognizing that our pursuit of calm and earth cannot be at the cost of human ecology and the environment itself. Therefore, our Shastras also recommend that while pursuing karma, we do it with moderation, with care and concern for one's own physical and mental health, as well as the health of the community and the society in which one lives. Our Shastras are perhaps somewhat unique in going beyond these three objectives, which are more easily intelligible, namely the kama or desires, earth, wealth, or dharma, righteousness. They go beyond these three and have recognized the greatness of the human spirit and its ability to transcend these three objectives at some stage of life and pursue moksha, release, transcendence, not being bound by the physical, mental needs, as well as the social pressures of wealth accumulation, keeping up with the Joneses. At some stage, we can psychologically detach ourselves from these various pursuits and have a great sense of release. Moksha does not mean inaction, sloth, giving up legitimate activity. It only refers to a mental state that even while performing various kinds of worldly karma in the pursuit of these other objectives, one can be in a state of spiritual and mental relaxation and detachment. There are various statements in the Upanishads, one of which says, Tena tyaktena bunjiyad. That means enjoy something but also renounce at the same time. In practical terms, this might mean that within a company, there will be good times and bad times. When the company is doing very well in a growing market, it would be able to give higher increments, better rewards, improve its physical hygiene facilities. One should enjoy these, whether they are executives or workmen, but at the same time realize that in a competitive domestic and global market, there can be bad times as well. In those periods, physical facilities, remuneration and rewards may have to be curtailed. In fact, we see elsewhere in the world, the wisdom of the unions, managements and government is such that they are able to work out even a combined policy of price control and wage reduction, and these are the kind of adjustments that a mental attitude of moksha makes possible. Another problem that we find in industry is that in order to be competitive domestically and globally, we have to achieve higher standards in productivity, in quality, packaging, dispatch, customer service. Now, many companies are going through an ISO 9000 program, a total quality management campaign. In that process, they look at their equipment, materials, systems, and develop various manuals. They also train people in different TQM skills. Now, these are very necessary, but they are not sufficient. Ultimately, we cannot produce quality goods and services, either for the domestic or for the global market, unless there is finally a pursuit of a quality individual. Unless every person in the organization, from chairman to the last mazdoor, pursues this objective of himself transforming his personality into a quality individual, the organization's quality program may be temporarily successful but cannot be sustained. Now, for this, we have some very useful insights from the Shastras if we understand the three basic gunas, qualities or tendencies of the human being. And these three have also been stated in some order of preference, just the same way as the human objectives have been stated in the order of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. The gunas have been stated in the order of sattva, rajas, tamas. The most desirable order is to have a predominance of sattvic qualities combined with a certain amount of rajas or energy and a minimal amount of tamas or slothfulness. We can ask ourselves this question, that over a period of 30 to 40 years, has a policy environment of licenses, controls, regulations, permits made us as a nation relatively more tamasic or slow moving, lower reflexes, slower response to environmental demands, and how do we stir ourselves from out of this tamas into a more active state of performance. Now, this new liberalization has opened up enormous opportunities, and one sees many companies, small, medium, and large, trying to capitalize on this. However, it is very important that while they move up from tamasic to rajasic level of activity, they have to be careful that they do not take shortcuts to growth and profitability. We should not in the process engage in disregarding the needs of the customer, in putting excessive unfair pressure on the suppliers by not paying them in time, or on the employees within the organization by an obsessive emphasis on exit policy or retrenchment, layoff, hire and fire, and so on. This growth opportunity that we have has to be pursued with a certain amount of sattvic qualities in the top management, middle management, union leadership, and the workman. Very briefly, these three qualities, if we look at what they mean, sattva basically is one of pure energy, a certain mental frame of pursuit of truth, spiritual, generous, kind, forgiving, and one does not speak therefore harsh words, think violent thoughts, or engage in violent deeds. Rajas is the next most desirable quality, and that is partly reflected in the Western psychoanalytic term libido or energy, drive. Drives can be of two kinds. They can be daivic or divine, or asuric or rakshasic or demonic. Therefore, the same energy can be used for good purposes or for bad purposes. This is something that we find in the behavioral science problems of organizations. We do have highly qualified engineers, accountants, executives, skilled workmen, but they are not necessarily good at maintaining interpersonal relationships with their colleagues, with their superiors and juniors. Therefore, the Rajasic energy needs to be governed and guided by a certain amount of sattvic capability. From time to time, an individual goes through certain physical health problems, family difficulties, maybe difficulties at the workplace, and therefore he tends to regress into a tamasic state. This is not to be confused with a certain amount of rest, relaxation, recuperation, which are perfectly legitimate. That is, during the authorized breaks for tea, snacks, lunch, shift change, it is perfectly legitimate for an individual to look forward to the end of his work and his relaxation. But tamas would mean that he is idle during the time when he is expected to tend the machine, the material, or the office work, computer, customer needs, and so on. There is another set of concepts from the Shastras which help us to deal with organizational problems. That has to do with things like career planning, succession planning, giving responsibility to younger, middle level workers and executives with aspirations for higher responsibility and job enrichment. Our Shastras have guided us on the reality that the body, our physical fitness, our mental agility, these things are likely to some extent decline with growing age. It is not possible for us to look forward to being permanently youthful, energetic. Therefore, they have guided us through a Jivashrama model, that is going through stages in one's life cycle. To begin with, it starts with brahmacharya. That is the stage where one is a scholar, a student with a great deal of jignasa, dedicated to learning, and that continues through schooling, college, and also in the first few years of work experience, either in government or in one of the professions like medicine or law or in industrial modern economic organizations. While one may have a theoretical knowledge coming in with a formal degree in engineering, accountancy, MBA, or personnel, there is much that one has to learn in terms of practical operation, dealing with the market, suppliers, unions, and workmen. So during this period, it will be useful if every new entrant continues in the mental frame of a brahmachari who is quite austere in his personal lifestyle, puts in extra time and effort, and wants to maximize his learning in the organization. Then comes a stage where one moves into the grihastha-ashrama. In personal life, this is the stage when one gets married and has the responsibility of maintaining this partnership throughout life, having children, bring up a family, and develop one's children totally in their intellectual, psychological, aesthetic, and spiritual dimensions as good citizens of the future society. The counterpart of this within the modern organization would be that it is this grihastha-ashrama group, perhaps roughly in the age group 28 to 50, which will bear the brunt of the responsibility for corporate strategic planning, annual operations planning, implementation of major projects, introduction of new products, meeting competition head-on domestically and internationally. It has to provide the backbone and the leadership for strategy and operations. Moving on to the managerial vanaprasth would begin around the age of 55. That does not mean that the person slackens his total time or energy spent on the organization, but the mix of his tasks, his priorities become different. For example, if somebody has been at the divisional management level, it's around this time, if he has the potential, he moves into corporate management. And from corporate management, he should be looking at long-term vision, perspective plan, agreeing on targets for the various divisions, enabling them to achieve those targets, and only periodically engaging in certain exception-based control, and restrain his own a tendency to interfere in detail, even though he may be extremely knowledgeable about the technology or the markets of those divisions. Sometimes it may be necessary to let a junior come up faster, supersede others, but that's not so much because of any favoritism, but it is in the interest of the organization, which is a microcosm of society, and this might mean that one has to allow him to come into the Grihasthashrama leadership level earlier in his career path. There comes a stage where one is ready to lay down formal office, will have to say goodbye. One may have spent a long time in that organization. Some people have spent 35 years in a particular career, or very often at least 15 to 20 years, having come in at middle level from outside. It is psychologically very difficult to leave an association unless one has made self-development plans for the retirement. One feels often lost with the free time on one's hand. Therefore, psychologically, we have to prepare for the fourth ashrama that our Shastras talk about, and that is sannyas. The modern concept of sannyas is not to go away into the forest or the Himalayas and disappear. There are many things that one can do in sannyas. Primarily to use the managerial skills for social good. There are many non-governmental organizations, initiatives in literacy, primary education, rural health and development, vocational skills, promoting small-scale entrepreneurship, various kinds of social, cultural organizations where the retiring manager can make a contribution during his stage of vanaprastha and later even more in depth in sannyas. Our Shastras have another set of ideas to guide us on the question of work and rewards. As you know, one of the problems in organizations is to have an appraisal system which is seen as fair and equitable. There are various changes in design, format, which are done from time to time. These are necessary, but there is no design of a formal appraisal paper which by itself will eliminate questions, difficulties, and certain amount of anguish that some managers experience about the appraisal. What is necessary is to grasp the fundamental philosophy of karma yoga. There is this famous shlok in the Gita which is often quoted, karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Some people feel that this is a very impractical and idealistic statement. How can one engage in some action without in some way desiring the fruits of it? Now, what this philosophy says is that excessive attachment and worrying and thinking about getting the rewards of action makes one less efficient in performing that action. In a strict logical sense, the Gita statement is true in that karmanyeva adhikaraha te, that is, you have relatively more control over the action. That is, by your own thinking, planning, analysis, concentration, you can perform the action better. The results that come out of the action are a combination of a number of variables, of which your action is only one. There are other organizational forces internally as well as there are external environmental forces. The same action sometimes results in very good performance, and sometimes for various other reasons doesn't result in good performance. So we don't have direct authority over the results and therefore the benefits. But if we concentrate on the action and perform it better, it is likely that there will be a high correlation between that action and the results and the rewards that come out of it. Our Shastras recommend three routes or margas for the human being and therefore for the organizations as well, and those are the route of karma, which is in industrial organizations the primary route, continuous action, reviews, variance analysis, and improved action. The second marga that is of value is to also be pursuing the Jnana marga, or the route of knowledge, in order to guide the karma, influence it through contemporary concepts in management. Today, a variety of new concepts have become available in every function of management. beginning from strategic and corporate planning to functional organization, systems, behavioral and organizational aspects with respect to several kinds of value creation activities in industry. Some of the managers make the mistake of overemphasizing the karma marg and not giving enough attention to the knowledge which is available, which can influence our karma. These two by themselves are not enough. The greatness of our Shastras lies in realizing that the human being is not purely a physical animal, nor is he purely an intellectual animal. He has a psychological and spiritual need in him. Therefore, there is a third marga which are of relevance to us, and that is Bhakti marga, the route of devotion. So, even with a little less academic knowledge and a little less of vigor and hard work in the Karma Yoga, if we can do the same thing with a higher level of bhakti or devotion, commitment to the organizational goals, values, commitment to the nation and the industry, commitment to one's subordinates, the chances are that the same action would be far more successful. I have tried in this lecture to cover a variety of organizational and personal lessons in a simple manner that one can derive from the Shastras. Of course, as I said, the Shastras are vast and there are many more in-depth analysis that can be done.